welcome to YMT112 Algorithm and Programming. This is a tutorial session for Chapter 9, Inheritance and its related topics. For this session, we will be covering probably 2 questions to limit the time of the session. So let's go ahead and just start discussing the available questions. The first one, define a Java class called instructor where the class has the following private attributes. Designation, a string that defines the title. So we have an instructor class, and this class we expect an academic instructor. That means the title of this academic instructor could be a professor, or associate professor, assistant professor, and a lecturer. So either one of those or any one of those. And then we have another private attribute, the experience, and will be set as an integer to specify the years of experience. And based on these two, the designation and the experience, we can get the rank. And the rank is also a private attribute that specifies or determines the level of employment. So this level of employment is determined based on both designation and years of experience. The example provided here, I just set it up from my mind. It may not apply to any academic place. It's just virtual. I set up the limits by my own, you can say, imagination. So now we have 3 private attributes, and we need to receive 2 of them from the user somewhere. So the user should define them. The third one will be calculated or determined based on some levels here. So then make sure that the instructor class should have all required setters and getters. And we discussed setters and getters before, but we will discuss them practically while we are implementing this class. Besides, the rank should be determined according to the following table. So we have a table here, determines the rank based on some conditions, or you can say levels. Based on these levels of experience and designation, we can get the rank, the employment rank. Well, let's go ahead and start writing our class so that we discuss in practical. I'm using NetBeans, but you are free to use whatever integrated development environment that suits you. It doesn't actually matter. For the time being, I'm using NetBeans. You can go ahead and just use it. Okay, let's create a class. I'm just using a package here for this tutorial. I created a base package for some classes. And this is Chapter 9 for Inheritance. I'm creating a class. And this class, I'll call it exactly instructor, what's requested from us. Okay. So I'm not interested in documentation now. We can discuss about documentation later on. We discussed actually in earlier classes. However, what's more important now, topics related to inheritance and its relevant issues. Now the question is asking me for defining 3 private attributes. So we have the first private attribute, and that is a string defining the designation. Okay. And then we need to define also an integer attribute. So we need to declare for it to represent the experience. And we need to also provide or declare for another integer private variable to hold the rank. These are private attributes, so you know how to access to them. We access to them through some methods within this class. So in that case, the question is asking us to create setters and getters. You already know what setters and getters are. These are private members, so we need to know how to set them up or how to set their values. In order for us to do so, we need to create public methods that belong to this instructor class for setting designation, des is enough. I don't have to write all the name. And here I have to receive a string as an argument for the designation, and I create the method. This is the scope of the method. Now we are inside this method. What do we need to do? We need to initialize or assign a value for the designation equals to des, what we have just received from the method as an argument. We do the same to other, actually the other private member here. We have the experience also. So for the experience, I'm very sorry, void set experience. I can just abbreviate it this way. And for the experience, we are considering an integer attribute. Remember, this is a string, this is integer. And the third one is also integer, but it's calculated or determined based on these conditions. All right, so let's go back here. Now, let's just create the parameter that we are going to receive, or the argument. We said we give it a name, experience, maybe X is enough. And now we need to assign it to the experience, the private member that we just created earlier. Okay. Now for the time being, these two are enough for setters. We need getters for these two. They are also public. However, they are not void. Why? Because we need to return the private attributes through public methods. In that case, we need to return a string for the first string. Okay. For the first attribute, the designation, get designation, des. I don't have to receive anything here. I do not have anything to be received in more proper statement. Now in this case, I need just to return the value of the designation we just assigned or initialized. And the same goes for experience. Okay, void get experience. No, this is not void. I'm sorry. This is integer. I need to return it as an integer, so this is a return type. And I just need to return, in this case, the experience. All right. We're good enough for the time being. This is good enough. We need to create, you can say, some sort of method to find the level or the rank of the academic or the instructor. In this case, we can get the rank based on some conditions provided by the question. So in order for us to get the rank, we need to see greater than equal 10 years of experience, rank 1, less than 10 years of experience, rank 2. This is for professor. So we have two conditions. The first one, if the academic or the instructor is a professor and he has 10 or more years of experience, his rank is 1. Otherwise, his rank is 2. Okay. So let's just go ahead and create this public method to do this task for us. Remember, the rank is integer, and in this case, get rank is also getter. All right. Now, in order for us to initialize or to start up conditioning or writing conditions here, we need to check whether the designation is equal to professor or not. Why? As you can see here in the question, when the designation is professor, then we need to check the experience after that. And the same goes to all of them. So initially we need to check the designation, whether it is professor or not. So we need to check designation. And this is a string, so I cannot use equals to. I need to use equals to as a method. Okay, and use this type, ignore case. Why? Because we're not quite sure what the user is going to enter. So in this case, we need to make up for user's mistake or the common mistakes made by the user. So we can say if the entered string is equal or equals to professor, and we ignore the case. Maybe the user is entering lowercase or uppercase, doesn't matter. So in that case, it will just match whether it is professor or not. Okay, at the same time, we need to have another condition, and this is like a nested type of conditions. Why? Because professor is not enough. We need to check the years of experience. So if we check the years of experience here, we need to see where the years of experience are lying. So here, I'm very sorry. Okay, if they are greater than 10 or not, the years of experience. So the experience, if it is greater than 10, then in that case, we can get the rank and assign it to 1. This is the condition. Else, I need to terminate, I'm sorry. Else, and this is else for this one. Let me just make it readable. Rank is 2. Why? Because we have actually one of two conditions. If it's greater than equal 10, then the rank is 1. Otherwise, it is 2 actually. Either greater than equal or greater than equal. I have to fix this one. Greater than equal. Okay. Or it is not greater than equal. That means it's less. All right. For this one, for this part, it is adequate. We need to move on and start another condition. However, I would recommend that we create a scope for each of these if statements to make sure where we are. I would go for such a scenario. That's much better. That means creating a scope for if statement so that we do not get ourselves confused. We have more than one if statement and we use else if. Why? Because we have another condition here. This condition is about associate professor, then we have assistant, then we have lecturer. So we try to scope them out so that we do not get confused. We apply very similar scenario. I can just copy this one to save time so that we shorten the session. Now we consider professor. We need to consider associate, right? Associate professor, exactly. And we need to make sure that the case, lowercase or uppercase, is not considered so that we ignore it in order for us to make up for any user mistake in entry. And we check also the experience. I can copy this one as well. No need to keep on writing them. Actually, it's not logical. So we just copy this one as well. However, we need to modify the experience. Let's get back and see the experience. Greater than equal 10, less than 10, so 3, 4. Greater than equal 10, here 3, and here is 4. Let's copy the whole block, apply it for the new condition that we have. Assistant professor greater than equal 10, less than 10, 4, 5. So here, assistant. So yeah, assistant, right? Assistant, yes. Professor greater than, that's 4. And then rank 5. Yeah, okay. Yes, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. Sorry. We have the final statement, else statement. Here in this case, we need to have lecturer, just straight. And we also ignore the case. And the years of experience greater than equal 10, that's 5, and less than 10 is 6. So greater than equal, that's 5, less than, that is 6, right? Really sorry, yeah. Well, in any case, if there is any other academic or instructor with any other title, what do we need to do? Maybe we can make else just a general one, and we say the rank is equal to 7. That's possible. Let's just make it as a base for us in this case. Okay. Now, we need, once we are done with setting up all the ranks, and you see we have this swirly line telling us that there is a problem. Why? Because I didn't return, let me check the scope, where am I exactly? Okay, yeah, correct. Because I didn't return the rank that we are looking for actually. So that will do. That will allow us to return the rank, and that's it. So let's just revise. We have our instructor class, 3 private members, string for the designation, an integer for experience, an integer for rank. These 2 can be received from the user and should be. So we set them up. And then we are not supposed to set up the rank. We are supposed to get it. How to get it? How to determine its value? We have some rules to get the value, and then we create all these, you can say rules. These are basic, actually rule based, and you already know them from if else statement or conditional statements. So we set up all of those and we return the rank. And remember that we use this method, string comparison method, equals ignore the case or ignore case. Why? Because we are not quite sure what the user will enter. Maybe will not exactly pay attention to the case and will enter in lowercase or uppercase. Well, okay, we're done with creating the class. And what else do we need? Write a simple demo class to test the defined instructor class. Well, this is just a class, it will not run. So in order for us to check whether our implementation is fine or not, we need to create a main class somewhere. I can create the main within this instructor class. Let's do it within this instructor class. So public static void main. Okay. And in this main, I need just to instantiate my class and see how the methods of the class work. In order for us to instantiate the class, we need to use the class name and see if we have a constructor or not. We don't have any constructor, so the instructor class will use the default constructor. All right. So in this case, instructor. Let's say inst, just an object of it, equals new instructor. That's it. We don't have any argument. Now inst as an instance of instructor has the access to all possible public methods. And in order for us to determine the rank, we need to provide the designation and the experience. I do not want to receive from the user. You can do it. You can input from the keyboard. Just to save time, to limit the session, what I'm going to do is I will just use the object name dot set designation, and I will just start by setting up, let's pick up one of those. For example, associate or associate professor. Okay. And then let's set up also experience. And the years of experience, let's say 12 is an integer. And now let's just print out the rank. So here, let's just write or define a printing statement, the rank of the provided instructor is, and we can just add a new argument here, inst I can go on new line actually. That would be more readable. Inst dot get rank. You may tell me you're just getting the rank. How about the rest of the details? We can display them. So we can display them. You can just create all displaying statements. We can just try it if you like. So we can display initially inst dot get designation des, and then we can apply also this to dot get experience, and then we will just display those and then display the rank of the provided academic. Let's just run and see how things go. Associate Professor 12, rank of the provided instructor is 3. We can add explanatory statements here if you like. Like you can add some statement says that the academic instructor is associate professor. He has 12 years of experience and the rank is 3 based on this. So as you see, greater than 12. Well, for the other explanatory statements, you can do them yourself, and that's enough for this session. I hope you guys will benefit from it. We will provide other session for other questions within this tutorial.